What if machine quilting stopped feeling intimidating and started feeling creative? Today's guest has helped thousands of quilters build confidence at their sewing machines with practical tips, beautiful texture, and a really freeing approach to quilting. From modern quilting and hand embroidery to walking foot designs and free motion quilting, my guest today teaches it in a way that makes you feel like you actually can do this. And I think every quilter needs to hear what she says about finding joy in the parts of quilting you love most. Today, I'll have a chat with Catherine Redford. Welcome to the Quilter on Fire podcast. I'm Brandy Maslowski, and if there's one thing I've learned from hundreds of conversations with quilters, artists, entrepreneurs, and makers from around the world, it's this. There isn't one right way to build a creative life. Some of my guests found quilting as children, others discovered it later in life. Some are building businesses, some are winning awards, and some are simply making time to create between work, family, and everything else life throws in their way. What they all have in common is a willingness to stay curious, keep learning, and keep making. Each week, I bring you honest conversations, practical insights, inspiring stories, and the occasional lesson learned the hard way. So you can spend less time wondering what's possible and more time creating a life you love. Whether you're stitching in your studio, driving to work, walking the dog, or dreaming about your next quilt project, I'm so glad you're here. Let's light that creative fire together. My guest today is award-winning quilter, teacher, author, and machine quilting expert, Catherine Redford. Originally from England and now based in Illinois, Catherine is known for her beautiful machine quilting, her innovative techniques, and her ability to teach complex ideas in a really approachable way. You may know her from her book, Modern Machine Quilting, her appearances on Quilting Arts TV and The Quilt Show, or from the many workshops and lectures she's taught across the quilting world. For me, catching a glimpse of Catherine at a quilt show simply brings on a smile because I know a hug is coming. She gives quilters permission to enjoy the process in their own way. Whether you love piecing, quilting, embroidery, or handwork, she believes there's room for all of it, and that quilting should bring joy, not pressure. So let's explore the story of Catherine Redford. Catherine, welcome to the show.
Oh, hi, Brandy. It's been a long time coming. It's good to catch up.
I know I've been wanting to have you on the podcast for so long. I see you at all these wonderful shows, and we do have a lot of great conversations together. So it's about time I had you as a guest.
Well, thank you.
So let's get started by taking a look back at where you got started. When do you remember first putting stitch to fabric?
Okay, well, I was one of those children, I think I was born with a pair of scissors in my hands. So I used to love cutting up bits of paper and making snowflakes. My mum wasn't too happy about that because I used to get the paper all over the floor and she made me pick it all up by hand. So she gave me a needle and thread and set me to embroidery. Probably when I was about 7 or 8. I'd done knitting with grandma when I was 6. So I know that. And then she gave me a tablecloth when I was 7 or 8. Whether it was to stop me cutting up the paper or to stop me listening to her conversation to her best friend, I'm not too sure.
The sneaky little one. She had to keep you busy.
Yes, she did. Yes.
So were there certain people in your life that really had that creative impact on you throughout your whole childhood?
Well, I mean, I always saw people making things when I was growing up. So my mum was a home ec teacher. She didn't actually like sewing, but her best friend across the road, who we called Auntie Barbara, she was like a self-taught seamstress. And so she made clothes and drapes and everything. And my mum would help her after she'd finished working. So I always saw them at the sewing machine fixing a problem. I wanted to join in. Auntie Barbara made clothes for my Barbie and I wanted to make them too, that sort of thing. So yeah, Auntie Barbara, she could do anything. And then I went to a all-girls school when I was 8 and we did embroidery at school. Oh. So, I was a good student back then and, I needed to keep my grades up. So I loved my embroidery classes, and then that went into sewing garments, and that went into embroidering garments, and that went into needlepoint, and so it progressed.
So did you make a transition from, education to a career before quilting?
Well, I went to college with the idea of getting a sensible degree that would get me a job.
Uh,
And I did graduate. I graduated and I went early because I skipped a year of school. So I graduated at 20 with a degree in food science and I got married 2 weeks later. And back then, when I went for interviews, they'd say, "Oh, you're getting married. Who's going to look after your children?" And I'm like, "Huh?" Right. So anyway, so I ended up with a part-time job answering telephones and doing needlepoint in the afternoon. And then I had children. They kept me busy, and I did cross stitch, and then I actually was published. But anyway, and then we moved here. So I didn't really have like a proper career job.
yeah.
Yeah.
So when did your first quilt come into play?
Okay. Well, when I was at high school, we did English paper piecing in the lunch hour. So I will tell people I am an English paper piecer, right? And so we sewed like little squares of probably some sort of polyester, knitted fabric.
Yeah.
I've no idea what happened to that. Anyway, so I remember doing that. And then when I had my third child, I decided, well, I wanted there to be more than the third, so I could make new things for whoever was coming along because I'd have more that would appreciate what I made. And I did this sort of Moses basket, like a wicker basket thing, and I actually made a quilty thing for that. And but it fell to pieces because I didn't know what I was doing. Oh, so my first real quilt I made after we moved to the States, and I learned to quilt in the States.
Okay, well, I feel like there's a little part of the story missing. So tell me a bit about your life in the UK and how you made the transition. Why did you come to the US?
Well, because we like an adventure.
Uh,
Anyway, so yeah, so I mean, I was, I guess, a stay-at-home mother and a professional volunteer.
yeah.
Volunteering in the local area at the school and everything. But I still kept sewing, and and I was actually teaching cross stitch before we moved to the States. You could go to a Tupperware party. I would do cross stitch parties.
Oh,
Anyway,
fun.
but my husband was offered a job and we were in our 30s and we had 4 children. I mean, why not? Why not move them all across the ocean and sell up and buy a new house and do all the things?
Wow, that's a
Game.
big endeavor, right? To take them all the way. And so how did your love for quilting blossom and grow over time? So your kids were growing up. How did you like just get hooked by the bug?
Well, so when we moved here, I just got published in a cross stitch magazine,
Yeah.
but it was 1995 and you did everything by mail. Right. And so that it was difficult. And, bringing 4 school-aged children, I guess it wasn't that easy. It did keep me fairly busy.
Yeah.
So that went by the by. But my one daughter, she made a quilt at Girl Scouts, and I got sent on the field trip as a chaperone because the block that we had made at home was not good. So the Americans were very polite, and they didn't tell me about quarter-inch seam allowances and all that. We'd sewn it at 5/8 of an inch because I was a garment sewer.
Yeah.
So they sent me, and I'd met quilters. I mean, different places I'd been, I met quilters. So when they sent me on the field trip, I thought, oh, I can take a class. So I signed up to take a class, and once I took that, I was like, oh, this is what I've been waiting for. I mean, and then so I decided that everything I did needed to come back into the quilting. And we were only here on a visa. So I couldn't work and we didn't know if we were going to be allowed to stay.
Right.
So I thought, well, if I learn to quilt, I've learned something new that perhaps could be more than an expensive hobby. And then that gave me an excuse to do it because it was a very expensive hobby.
Yeah.
With 4 children. And so I thought, well, I'll learn as much as I can while I'm here because it seemed like America was the place to learn about quilting.
Yeah.
So, so by the time our 6 years of visas was up, I'd learned to quilt and we ended up staying.
Yeah, so you ended up staying. So your quilting grew and blossomed over time. So how would you say your style changed from the start of quilting to now?
Okay, well, my first quilt was brown.
Oh no.
Okay, my first quilt was brown and olive green.
That could be
Okay,
really
I don't,
lovely, actually.
yeah.
That could be
So
lovely.
I don't think if anybody who knows me would think I am a brown and olive green person, right? Okay, but for some reason that's what I did to begin with. And so, but I mean, I always wanted to do my own thing, right? So right. I remember my second quilt, it was at a shop. So, you get a pattern and everything. And I remember asking the teacher in the first class, because I knew I was going to sign up for a second class, do you think it will be okay if I do this, this, and this with the quilt they want me to make in the second class?
Yeah.
So I was already wanting to change things and go my own way and, things like that. So, and I remember taking a color class and the teacher saying, "Well, Catherine seems to have her own ideas about this," and I, I don't know. I mean, I went to school where we wore uniform, right? So we
Yeah.
we wore navy blue, pale blue, and grey, right?
Yeah.
So if I could use pink and purple, right? If that's what I could dress in,
Yeah.
then that's what I wanted to do, and I guess that came through as I discovered all the fabric and all the stuff, and I mean, but I went through my Thimbleberries era,
Yeah.
right? I mean.
Yeah.
But it was a brief one, very brief spell of thimbleberries.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So was there kind of a defining moment in your quilting journey when you kind of thought, okay, this is my thing. I think I'm going to start trying to do this for a living?
Well, so once I was allowed to work, I started thinking about it. And we had a couple of quilt shops in town, and the one I was taking most classes at, I made a friend through a mutual friend, a younger woman, and she had got herself a part-time job at the one shop, and she was in education, but she was just moved and she was looking for a job, right? And so she got this part-time job, and she spoke to the shop owner and said, Catherine's been helping me learn to quilt. I think you should employ her as a teacher.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, and she told me. So when I went into the shop and Gina said, "Hey, Catherine, Stephanie says that you're interested in teaching. What do you think?" I'm like, "I'm your woman, right?" I was waiting to be asked. And so whether or not I should have done, I mean, it was 2003 and I'd been quilting like 4 years,
Yeah.
right? I don't know whether I should have been teaching, but I'm one of these people. If I learn something, I want to tell you,
Yeah.
right? And so I've always loved passing knowledge on and having a reason for learning the knowledge. So I started teaching in 2003. Now you don't earn a living when you're teaching in a quilt shop,
True.
right? But at least I got discount on my fabric,
Yeah.
and I made a little. There was a little bit of money. I mean, I declared a profit. I've declared a profit for my taxes since 2003.
Yeah.
I mean, whether or not I could live on it now, because we have things like health insurance, but but apart from that, yeah, it's become. It certainly takes my time up like a full-time job now.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I taught in the shop, and then I wanted to do more, and the shop closed in 2013, and I'd met people who opened doors for me. So it has been full-time since 2013.
Yeah. So great.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's take a step out of the story for a moment and find out where you're living now and who are your loved ones that you share your world with every day.
Okay, well, I live in Naperville, Illinois, which is a suburb 33 miles southwest of the center of Chicago. Okay,
Yeah.
we actually moved in October 1995. We lived in a hotel for 7 weeks before we moved in. Then we moved in, and it was a big move, and we've never moved since. So it's the longest I've ever lived anywhere. This is home. My husband is currently on his way home from the airport, and it's just him and me in the house. We had our 4 children. They're all grown up. They're all married. We have grandchildren. They stay out of the way because I make them useful whenever they arrive.
But I bet they find it fun though.
Yeah. So
Oh, good. Okay. So back into the story. I love to talk to all of my guests on the podcast about design, and you design so many wonderful things, especially in your books. So, with regards to making books and classes and patterns and things, Wh- when you see things in the world that spark an idea, how do you capture it? Are you pencil to paper or digital?
Yeah, so everything is piece of paper and a pencil.
Okay.
You want to ask my daughter about me and anything else. So, I like to keep things simple.
Mhm.
So I really see myself as a teacher. And there's so many good things we can all do. So my focus is teaching, and I want to be as good a teacher as I can be.
Yeah.
So when it comes to designing, I don't put a lot of like time into
Yeah.
things because it's just one pathway to give people ideas of what they could do.
Yeah.
I don't want to give them really thought out, complicated something we're all going to make the same thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I do have a few quilts that have been inspired by things I saw. Like, I know I was driving up the road one day in February and there was snow on the trees and a bright blue sky.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, and I did my errands and I came home and I drew out a very simple block and I made a quilt.
Hmm.
Right. But I drew it out with a pencil, very simple, make it up as I go along. Um, when I do patterns for magazines, they go in quick and easy quilts.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't go in quilt maker, you know? They're really a tool for you to have something to work with color, work with fabric, to quilt. Um, I guess my embroidery is a little bit more intricate and a little bit more work.
Yeah.
Those are more thought out and take more time to produce the design. But pieced quilts, they're very straightforward.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is you're not really that much into the pattern design, making a million patterns for your website. You're more into creating courses, teaching people, and writing books, right?
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah. I make a quilt. I make a quilt top
Yeah.
so that I can quilt it.
Yeah.
All right. I mean that's why I make a quilt top so I can quilt it, or I make it to display my embroideries.
Mhm. Yeah.
So it's to show the embroideries off. But yeah.
And you mentioned early on that one of your earliest quilts was brown. And so where do you pull your color inspiration from nowadays?
I don't know. I just like bright things, and if I see a new collection of fabrics that I like, I'll start with that. I'm very eclectic in what I get up to, and I like solids.
Yeah.
So, now that you know, back when I started quilting, solids were like, who uses solids, right? And then
Yeah.
now it's very permissible
Yeah.
to use solids. So I really do like using solids, often with only a little bit of printed fabric. And then I just pick palettes that appeal to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I know that you like to teach and travel. So, what do you bring to the world with your business in a nutshell?
With my business in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I want people to feel better about themselves when they leave my presence. I don't know. Like, so you come into a class, I don't want you to run out crying. I want you to go out and say, "Oh, that was a good day,"
Yeah.
or come to a lecture. I want you to learn something.
Yeah.
Right, so you come to my lecture, but I want you to laugh. I want you to, as you're learning.
Yeah.
You know, I want to finish before you, getting me off stage. But I really want people to have fun while they're learning, to enjoy it, because, we don't have to make quilts, right? I mean, I have to keep the house at a certain level of cleanliness, however I achieve that, whether I pay someone or do it myself.
Yeah.
But making a quilt is really, I do it because I love doing it.
Hmm.
And there's no real sensible reason for doing it other than it makes me feel happy. And so I want other people to feel happy, in that same way, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it's a good goal to have.
Yeah.
So, what was your first quilt that you ever had on display, like at a quilt show or in any challenge or anything like that?
Okay. That's probably the first one was actually I joined a quilt guild, and we had challenges.
Hmm.
And I had lots of time because I didn't have a work permit. And so I spent far longer than would be normal, I think, for making a small quilt.
Yeah.
And people liked it.
Hmm.
And so it hung with the challenge quilts at our guild event, and it got a ribbon or two, you know.
Ah.
So that was fun. Actually, before that in England, I won a cross stitch competition.
Oh.
Yeah, a design competition. I won a weekend away, and that displayed. And as a teenager, I entered like the village show, and won things. So after that, that you get bitten by the bug, and so I made a few quilts. I didn't necessarily make them to enter into shows, but
Mhm.
like if I made a couple of quilts that I thought might be show worthy, right? So I sent one to England because nobody knew what was going on there, and then I we started a modern group, and so we had a challenge, and it was a miniature challenge, and then QuiltCon happened,
Hmm.
right? And I'm like, and they had this modern in miniature category, and you had to put your picture into Flickr.
Oh, okay.
So I got one of the young things in the modern group to come over, and she helped me get a Flickr page. And so then I could put my little quilt into Flickr, and I could enter the show. And so I did that, and I actually flew to Austin. I got one of those letters, they send you they still do it. They send you a letter to say you've won something, but don't you dare tell anybody, right?
Yeah.
So I was already booked to go to the first QuiltCon. I got there too late for the prize presentation, but I got there and I went and found my quilt, and it got first place,
Oh,
modern in
no.
miniature.
Oh,
QuiltCon 2013.
wow.
My friend, who is not a quilt maker, she asked me if it was a placemat. Yeah, what use was it? Could I use it as a placemat? Yeah, so that was fun, and then I entered a traditional. I did a Sue Spargo block of the month, and once I finished that, I'm like, oh, and so I entered that in a couple of shows, and it went to AQS Des Moines, and it went to Road to California, and it got two third places that my sons weren't very impressed by.
Oh no, third only, Mom. Come on.
Yes, yeah, they said third place, that the best you can do. So
Oh,
yeah, but it's fun. I honestly I don't really enter shows very much because I don't make that sort of quilt.
yeah.
And I did another one for QuiltCon in 2019. I had one that won the wall quilts category,
Oh.
but I think that was in the category of why do you think that one won? You know, but I mean, I'll take a blue ribbon if you want to give it me. So, and it was well made.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're starting to get the feel for entering shows, being a part of shows. So did that open the door for starting to teach
Yes.
at some of these shows?
Yeah. So after when I got the ribbon at Des Moines, and through the modern group, I met somebody that was local that actually went to work for AQS. She ended up only being there 18 months, but she opened some doors for me.
Nice.
And then I ended up teaching at the next year's Des Moines show. And I was asked to be a judge with Bill Kerr
Oh,
and
yeah.
Jackie Gehring. They had a
Wow.
modern category. Anyway, so and then once you've done that, then oh, who is this person? And my daughter helped me get a website, and oh, she must be real if she's online.
Wow.
And I'd met Pokey Bolton, and she was working for Quilt Sync, and
Hmm.
she opened the doors there for me, and it snowballed.
Yeah.
Honestly, it snowballed. It was what I wanted, and I think I'd served a reasonable apprenticeship,
Mhm.
and I certainly love what I do, and I work hard at it. But without the people opening the doors, it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, you certainly had
Yeah.
a fun, and you've had a lot of milestones along the way. So let's
Mhm.
talk about a quote that you love. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all by Helen Keller.
Helen Keller. Well, in our teens, we read all sorts of books, don't we?
Yeah.
And so I always remember reading, the Helen Keller story.
Mhm.
And then that quote, it sort of sums it up. It's like, yeah, you can, I'm very good at sitting at home and doing nothing, right? And that's the nothing at all. But it doesn't make me happy. I'm not a good person to be around. I I am somebody who I need to push the boundaries, I need to just go close to the edge,
Yeah.
um, to keep me active and happy and more used to the world, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah, that's a good thing. Okay, let's chat about your website for a minute. So, catherineredford.com. So,
keep it easy.
what kind of things will we find if we go to your website?
Okay, well, we simplified that recently as well. So I tell people I write an occasional blog post.
Okay.
When I started it, yeah, I was better, and it's I enjoy reading it. Okay. I mean, I spent a few happy hours the other evening going back and seeing what I'd been up to and the craziness of my life. So I try and, where I've been, what I'm doing, what's coming up, what I'm working on, but it all is in the blog.
Yeah.
So, so that's there. Then I have lectures and workshops. So, there's listing as brief descriptions and the all important pricing. People often don't get to the bottom
Yeah.
uh, to see that, but it is there. I keep my calendar reasonably up to date.
Yeah.
Where I'm going to be, so that if you want to join the fun, you can be there. I think, and then I have buttons down the side because I want to keep it easy so that you can find things. If you go to my website, you can find the shows I'm at. You can see the online classes I have with different organizations.
Yeah.
It's a few affiliate links. It's all down the side of the website. Very easy to find.
Yeah.
That at least that's what I want. It don't be reading it for double meanings and deepness or depth of character. Uh, it's Catherine's happy life in Quilty Land.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning that you're an ambassador for
Yeah.
Bernina, and that's
Hmm.
down the side. I know
Yeah.
you love Global Quilt Connections. That's a
Yeah.
wonderful organization.
Yeah.
And you're part of the teacher program for Wonderful as well.
Yes. I am a wonderful, wonderful teacher.
Okay, and also if people subscribe to your newsletter, I see that you get a free embroidery pattern, which is a really cute apron. Well, it's
Yes.
on an apron anyway. So
Yeah. It's just a butterfly design that I did. So you go on the website, the annoying pop-up
yeah,
comes
yeah,
and you can fill that in, and then you get a link to get the PDF, and then the emails I've sent two this year,
yeah,
right? I mean, and there will be another one soon. So I send emails when there is something that I'm doing that is sort of more national level
yeah,
that you might want to join in with.
yeah.
It's that, I mean, it's definitely marketing. If you want to just join in my happy life,
Mhm.
that's my blog. It's not my newsletter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So all kinds of fun stuff there on the website. You love
Yeah.
to teach and travel as well. So are there any highlights as a teacher or speaker?
Okay. So I like to make sure that people know that I'm serious about teaching, that it isn't just a byproduct of the traveling.
Okay.
Because I do love the traveling, right?
Yeah.
So like last week I was in Carlsbad, California,
Yeah.
and I was able to sit on the bluffs and listen to the waves coming in, and life was good, right?
Yeah.
Last year, I went to Los Alamos.
Mm.
Okay, why would you go to Los Alamos unless you were invited there?
Yeah.
But it's New Mexico and beautiful scenery, and the people were so interesting. And I got the chance to go to Santa Fe, and all that good stuff. A few years ago, I taught for Quilt Wyoming. And
Mm.
before I even taught there, I spent all the money I was going to earn on going to Yellowstone. Right.
Yeah.
So I love seeing like natural wonders, if you like.
Yeah.
I mean, quilt shops are great, but it's seeing the natural wonders and beauty that, really makes me happy. So, and usually I find that if the guilds know that's what you want to do, or even going to a museum or,
Hmm.
an estate or something, they're always very happy to give you recommendations. But I'm
Yeah.
good on TripAdvisor.
Yeah.
You know?
I
I
always
usually,
try.
yeah,
I
yeah,
always try to see something in the areas I'm visiting, especially if it's a new place. Like I really
yeah.
enjoyed once going to the Rocky Mountain Quilt Museum when I was
Oh
there.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
I went to visit the Colorado Quilt Council or something, and we
yeah.
went to that museum, and yeah, and Golden is I love the town of Golden, and yeah,
Yeah.
we went up to a mining town. Uh, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
I
Yeah.
met somebody recently, and she said I was the one that drove you all around, north of San Francisco. I said, "Ah, I remember. We went to the beach and we drove around. We drove along the San Andreas Fault, and you weren't very happy, were you?"
I dragged you through our countryside.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, but
That's
I'm
always
there
fun.
to teach first,
Yeah.
right? I have to make sure that I get enough sleep and enough time to be ready to teach. I do sort of take that seriously most of the time.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Okay, so let's move on and talk a little bit about your books. So you have a few wonderful books, and I want to get into each and every one. So let's start
Yeah.
with Butterfly Stitches.
Okay, Butterfly Stitches came out September 2020. Not necessarily the best time to publish a book. So it came out of a year-long like Butterfly of the Month that I tried to do on my website. I thought,
Oh,
I ought to make more effort on my website, all
yeah.
that ought to, and so I did that, and it was okay. But apparently, Amy from C&T had seen it. And
Mm.
I met her in an elevator
Oh.
at a show.
Oh, and you gave her your elevator pitch.
I said, "Hi, Amy." I was at a knitting show. I said, "Hi, Amy. I don't usually see you here. I usually see you at quilting shows." She said, "Yes. You know what, Catherine? I'd like to have a word with you." And I'm like, "Oh, right. Yep. I'm your woman." Right. And so she came to the classroom, and I actually had the butterfly quilt out for the class I was about to teach. And so, yeah, I signed on the dotted line in May and delivered my manuscript in August, and it came out September the next year. So that was it was 12 butterflies for embroidery and for wool applique.
Yeah.
Really a tool to, learn how to do those things. And then that became a creative spark class.
Yeah.
So that was butterfly stitches. And then, I'd already got the machine quilting book.
Yeah.
So but the latest one is just a second edition of my first book.
Yeah.
So really, I only have two books, but I have three books.
Now I have a copy of this book. You handed it to me at QuiltCon and you gave me a signed copy. So thank you so much for that. So I want to just talk to you a little bit about the photography because it's gorgeous. So how did you get the photos done?
Okay, so I had some photographs in the first edition. My daughter is a graphic designer, my one daughter, Julia.
Yeah.
So she did anything that was smaller than 24-inch square, and the process pictures she actually took for me. It turned into a few days. So she did that. And then anything bigger than that, which was only about 10 pictures, I sent to C&T in Northern California, and they took those. So really, but I chose my palette, for the cover on what I thought looked fresh and
Mm-hmm.
new
Yeah.
and relevant for right now, because the first edition was actually good colors for then,
Yeah.
right? But I wanted it to look different but similar enough, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, so I picked that, and then we sort of went with that, and I'd learned things. If you want people to see your stitching, then it has to be on the right colors. So in the first edition, I'd got some of my stitching examples were on yellow, not good for a
Yeah.
book.
Yeah.
So, so everything went on to red or blue with white thread. So you could see it, and we went through it. And then, the first book I wrote in 2016. So by 2024, when I was finishing off the book, I'd learned lots. And being at home for COVID, done lots of work and trying new things. So I was able to put some new sections in that included that. So really, you start off with your quilt top,
Mhm.
but we all know a quilt top has 3 layers. So quilt top needs to become a quilt, and then a quilt has to have a finished edge. So it even includes like the binding or putting a facing on. So you really do, it says finish your quilts creatively on your home machine. It really is a finished quilt by the end
Yeah.
is the plan.
And you
Yeah.
made a really good choice for the cover because, first of all, the name of the book is Modern Machine Quilting. Finish your quilts creatively on your home machine. Now, the reason I say the cover is such a good choice is because you have a really good balance of stitches, different kinds of stitching, so different motifs in your quilting. Plus, you use a white quilt quilt behind the words, which allows the
Mhm.
words to stand out. So
We try.
that was a really good choice. And another thing I really love is the addition of the hand stitch on there. So you're using machine stitching, hand stitching, and a whole variety of
Yeah,
patterns
yeah.
or piecing. So
Yeah, so the book is, it's set up, then it's walking foot, then it's free motion,
yeah,
and then it's those little things, including the hand stitching. So
yeah,
so the quilt that is under the title, that is walking foot, free motion, and hand stitching. That sort of sums up
yeah,
what is inside the book.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's so great.
Yeah.
And then when you
But
turn it over on the back, there's all kinds of individual motifs.
yeah,
It's just a
and
great,
that one is your 10-inch squares
yeah,
put together quilt as you go,
yeah,
because people come to class and they sew on their 10-inch squares, and then they're all worried about wasting their 10-inch squares of fabric. So now you can take them and you can trim them and you can make a quilt with them, and the instructions are in the book.
yeah. So good. And you have appeared in all kinds of wonderful publications like Gloria Loftman's book, Quilted Symphony. And you had a quilt in the Quilter's Bible as
Yeah,
well.
I know. I don't know how that happened, but I discovered it there, and then I thought, oh, I better buy a copy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's like you find things in different places, and it's like, oh, perhaps I should get one of those.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've been featured in all kinds of patchwork magazines and QuiltCon
Yeah,
magazine and all that kind of stuff. So,
yeah.
where can we go if we want to buy one of those books that you have nowadays? Should we just go to your website?
Okay. You can. I don't do mail order on my website. Okay, that's
Okay.
first thing. I'm a teacher. I'm not. I do a pop-up shop when I travel, but I am not an online store.
Okay.
So, you can always buy C&T books from CT Publishing, all right?
Yeah.
ctpub.com or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
You can always get them there. But my favorite place to recommend is, of course, go to your local quilt shop,
Yeah.
because all the C&T books, they are the shops can order them from their distributors. They can get hold of them, and it's good for the local quilt shop. They get the profit, but also if you go and order a book they don't normally have, they see it, and perhaps
Yeah.
they might order more and sell more people copies of my book.
Yeah.
And then, of course, if you don't have those options, and I know not everybody does, you can go to the big supermarket in the sky, and I do have affiliate links where at
Okay.
least I get a few of his pennies.
Yeah. Pennies is this.
All right. But that I would say that's when all the other choices have run out,
Yeah.
I have to say. All right. So
Yeah. Sounds good. Okay. So let's get into your teaching a little bit. So what's your most popular workshop?
this year, walking foot quilting beyond the ditch.
Okay.
Okay. Last year it was the embroidery classes.
Yeah.
This year with the book coming out, I'm teaching that I don't know how many times, right?
Yeah.
Every class is different because I never know who's coming and or whatever else. But that I think I've already taught it 3 times this
Yeah.
month. All right. So that is definitely, and that one, depending on what the guild or the group wants, I can split it into 3-hour classes. You can choose your combination. If they want more of the hand stitching, some of them really want to do the hand stitching. We do a little bit less stitching and more hand stitching. Last year, I actually did a 4-day version. I'm off to Ohio next week, and I'll be doing a 2-day version of walking foot quilting. 2 days means that we can do lots, and you get time to sew. I like to make sure everybody learns everything. So I would say my biggest issue is not giving people enough time in class to sew
Yeah.
because I want to tell them everything.
Yeah.
Um, and sometimes, for some people, that suits them because they might bring a machine with them, but especially like for the walking for they bring their little whatever, and they have the big one at home.
Oh no.
And a lot of the techniques are so much better, and there's so much more you can do on your best machine,
Yeah.
So we sort of gloss over the fact that they can't quite manage it right now, but when they get home, they can.
Yeah.
So yeah, walking foot quilting is the one this year.
And so if people are listening right now and they're thinking, I've got to book this for my guild, or we love the idea of all these things coming together and how flexible you are, where should they go to book you?
Well, you go to my website, so you go to my website, catherineredford.com, and then you go to the classes and workshop page, and then you'll, or class and whatever it is, that page, and you can choose from there, and then you email me, and there is a contact form, but it's, I'm Catherine at catherineredford.com.
Yeah.
We keep it simple.
Well, we can go to your website at
Yes.
catherineredford.com to book and see your whole schedule, actually.
Yes, yeah.
There's all kinds of wonderful things coming up. So I'll just list them right here. You're teaching at Houston in November,
Yep.
2026. You're teaching at the Original Sewing and Quilt Expo as well. Coming up.
So yeah, there'll be a couple of those, and they'll go on the website when that's finalized. Yeah.
Okay. And then AQS, you'll be doing some more teaching there.
Yep, I will. So we're advertising. I don't know. Grand Rapids is August.
Yeah.
And then next year I already have some contracts, so you'll be able to look for those when once that comes out, and then. With AQS, of course, we're doing the cruise.
Yes. Oh, yes. So we're going to talk about that in greater detail coming up. Okay. So we'll talk more about that in a minute. So if you're listening right now and you have already skipped over to look at the book online and you're kind of excited about it, keep an eye on Catherine's website to keep track of that schedule, because she'll add more things as they come up. She might, you never know, she might be in your area. Okay. One more thing I wanted to talk to you about before we get off the topic of teaching is your speaking. So you do lectures as well. So tell us about a couple of your lectures.
Okay, so I have 3 lectures on my website, but I've actually got a 4th that I haven't got around to putting there. So you never know. By the time people are listening to me, it might be there. So my original, and still, I did it last week, Lessons Learned While Quilting. Okay, it's my humorous look at Catherine's philosophy of quilting, and it takes you through my life, right, to the present day. And it's a slideshow, but I will bring some quilts depending on what else is going on, whether I'm driving or whatever. So there's that one. Then I got another one called Language of Flowers. I discovered that I'd made lots of quilts with flowers on. So it's like a trunk show of quilts with flowers on that I've made. And then things that, people give flowers for special occasions. You give quilts for special occasions. Back in the Victorian times, a rose meant this, a tulip meant that. We do a little bit of that. We have some little sayings and things that go with it. So we do that. And then we have a trip around the world in folk art stitches. And that is a game show. And so that one's based on, I made 10 quilts for an exhibit that I had at Houston, and they are quilts that each one represents the folk art of a different area of the world. So they are embroidered quilts based on pieces of folk art, and made into quilts, and we travel around the world and we learn about the country, we learn about the quilt, we learn about the symbolism and all that good stuff. Right. And then my latest one is based on the book. And so I've got a detail, very educational, like walking foot quilting in an hour. Right. And that one is full of information.
Yeah.
So that's from the book. I've done that a couple of times. I need to probably slimline it a bit. You can have too much of a good thing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how entertaining you are. People do go to sleep at some point, right? It doesn't matter. it doesn't matter how amusing you are or what your accent is. There is a time when you need to stop talking. And
Or
so
bring
to
a
get
pocket full of candy so you can toss them into the audience
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
wake people up.
So I feel like I got it in under the hour by talking too fast.
Yeah.
So I need to just work out what's the most important part of that. So, but
Yeah.
that's my latest one.
Well, it
So
sounds like you have a really good variety. You've got the humorous one, you've got the flower themed one, you've got the
yeah.
trip around the world one.
Oh, come
And
on, everybody laughs at everything.
yeah, it's true, probably true. I haven't seen one of your lectures in person. I'm hoping to do that one day. I think it would be delightful, but you have some great topics. So
That's
I'm
right.
sure people listening right now, if they're in charge of programs, they might be thinking, we've got to bring
Well,
this
I hope
quilter
so.
in.
I've got a few states I haven't been to yet, So yeah, and I can always go back.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a quilter project that's been most memorable for you?
So I guess that one, the trip around the world one, was pretty exciting. So I had been working with International Quilt Festival, and I'd had a little display. They did a quilt knit stitch show in Oregon, and that was actually where I taught for them the first time. And I'd put together some handwork for a display there. And then they said, "Well, do you want to do something more?" And I'm like, "Well, if they ask you, you really need to say yes."
Mhm.
So we had a chat, and we came up with this trip around the world idea. And they gave me a number of quilts and a length of wall space that I needed to fill.
Yeah.
And so then I spent the next 18 months working on those, and I had 10 quilts. So they started off at the Rosemont show in Chicago
Mhm.
in the spring of 2017, and then they went to Houston that year. So it was great to see them hanging there. The only thing was that Sue Spargo had an exhibit that year, right? So you walked into the hall and you saw Sue Spargo, right? And everybody knows, right? Sue Spargo, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
you saw those. And then as you came to the end of those, eyes forward, you saw Danny Amazonas, right? Right?
Yeah.
A beautiful, bright Brazilian or South American, right?
Yeah.
Collage quilts,
Yeah.
right? And the tendency was to run over there. And that meant that you missed mine.
Oh, no.
But nevertheless, I was there.
And I'm sure it was brilliant.
And I had a little book, you could sign, and people wrote some nice things. And so it was exciting to have them there. And they've hung a few other places in between times. So,
Oh, fun.
yeah.
Well, that's an intense amount of work in 18 months. So it's so nice that you had a wonderful display.
Deadlines are good for me.
Yeah. Good.
I work much better when I have, something, an insight or a project in mind.
Yeah.
I'm not good at just in case,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
In your creative practice, what brings you joy?
What brings me joy? Actually seeing things come to life, I guess. Actually working on it and seeing it happening. I'm thinking, oh, you're not doing too bad here.
Mm-hmm.
In England, we're not really very good at that self-esteem and all that stuff. So if I say something's not too bad or it's okay, an English person means, oh, if I was allowed to be, I'd be proud of this.
So great.
So when I'm working on something and it's like, oh, this is working. I really like that. I had these 4 children close together, and life was about surviving and doing the things you needed to do, but then it needed redoing. A very long-term project, like watching your children grow up. So to have something that you do that is finished and stays finished is very satisfying to me.
Yeah, I could see why that brings you joy. Okay, so right now we're going to take a quick break. And then when we come back, we're going to talk all about Catherine's studio, some more projects, quilts, of course, and what's coming soon. We'll be right back. If you love the Quilter on Fire podcast, wait until you see the rest of the story. On Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok, you'll find the parts that live outside the mic. The quilts up close, the studios, the travel adventures, the funny stories, the thrift store treasures, the teaching moments, and some podcast video clips too. Come hang out with me on the socials. Some days I'm sharing quilting tips. Some days I'm taking you behind the scenes on a quilt travel adventure. Some days I'm interviewing amazing makers from around the world, standing right in front of their work at a show. And some days I'm stranded in an airport, wondering if my suitcase is having a better trip than I am. It's all part of the adventure, and it's a lot more fun with you there. So before you forget, stop what you're doing and search Quilter on Fire on your favorite social media platform. Give me a follow, send me a message, say hello, and let me know you're a podcast listener. I'd love to connect with you there. That's Quilter on Fire on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok. I'll see you there. And we are back with Catherine Redford. Catherine, tell us about your studio space. Where do you create?
Okay, the whole house is mine.
Your kids are gone.
When I started sewing, I worked in the basement. We have like a traditional American house, with a finished basement, right? So I worked in the basement. And then when everybody left home, I'm like, why am I in the basement, right? So I told my husband I wanted to move upstairs, and he was like, which room are you going to take? And so he thought I'd take one of the bedrooms. Well, of course, I took the biggest of, not our bedroom, right? But the biggest one. So I took, my daughters had shared it. So it's painted daffodil yellow. It has windows on two sides. And that became my sewing room, if you like. Okay. And I keep the stuff I'm using and my sewing machine and everything that's in there, and my iron and all that. So that's upstairs. But then I was keeping all the stuff for classes and inventory and all that stuff. That was just in a mess. So one Christmas a few years ago, for Christmas, my daughter and her husband, they came, and because the basement, once I moved out, descended into a mess. We cleared it all out. And so now I have a 24 by 12 space in the basement.
Wow.
That I keep all my inventory, and I make kits there and all that stuff, right? And there is a bedroom there that also gets used when I want to. And then we started Zooming, and I needed a space for Zooming. So I have a room that was the computer room where my one son in particular hung out with his friends and their computers, and that is dedicated space really for doing online stuff, so I don't have to clear up. And I've got good lighting, and I've got hanging rails and a lovely big sewing table I can put a sewing machine into, and all the stuff is in here. But then when I want to sit and hand sew, then I'm going to be sitting in my comfy chair in the family room, right? Yeah. So my husband's like, oh, I was at work today and I noticed that I had threads on my pants. So, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. And he said, oh, well, really, I think it's cute, really, isn't it? So, and then, sometimes the dining room table might become a workspace, or the kitchen table, or I mean, the whole house. It's all mine. He works remotely 80% of the time, so he gets a sofa in the front room. Right, that's his.
That's it.
That's his. The rest is all mine.
So what's your favorite time of day? Okay.
Well, I'm not a morning person. And I'm not an evening person. No. So I have to say, really, it's that, 11 o'clock till 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Yeah, that's my most productive time if I need to get stuff done. When I'm traveling, I set my alarm. I get up when I need to get up. Once I get in the classroom, life is good, right? And then I'm done, and I go back to my hotel room, and I'm done. So that the middle of the day is really my most productive time, I think. Yeah.
And I think students don't realize how exhausting teaching is. I mean, it's super fun, and we teachers, we love it. But sometimes I think students don't realize that we're not just that on all the time. We like to just crash.
That is not the normal. That is not me at home, right? When I'm there and I'm really listening hard and I'm trying to think of the answer, or I'm trying to stay on track.
Yeah.
I jokingly says, it takes me a lot of effort to be nice to people. But
Yeah.
I think that's actually true, and it makes me very tired.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
exhausting. I mean, you can be a super kind person, but it takes a lot of energy to be on
hmm
all the time when
It
you're
does for
teaching.
me.
You want to bring them joy and you want to bring them
Yeah.
good information and you want to be your best for them, right?
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
Okay, so what's the best thing you do for your own self-care?
Oh no, I asked my daughter about that one because I said, Julia, what self-care? Do I do anything that's self-care? I said, because I think I grew up before the days of self-care. You
Yeah.
know, so she said to me, because last night I went to book club, right?
Mhm.
So one of my friends, she decided we should have a book club, and we only started it in January, and this was only the third meeting. And my husband was due to be flying home last night, and I said, it's book club, and so I can't miss it. You'll have to Uber, right? And so she said that was self-care, making book club a priority because I needed to spend time with my friends.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Yeah,
so true.
so there you go. So if that counts for self-care, otherwise I'm look at me, I'm not the best, right? I'm just not the best. Now, my friend's back from Florida and we have already been for 2 walks and
Wow.
we are planning on going for a walk tonight. So now she's back from Florida, I am walking again. And we walk for about an hour and every so often we invite somebody to come with us and they can't keep up.
Yeah.
So, we do walk quite quickly for an hour, but
Yeah.
I'm afraid I don't do it when she's not here. And it's too cold in the winter and too hot in the summer. So
You only do it to keep up appearances so that she thinks you do it all the time.
no, I mean, I really enjoy going for a walk, but I can't do it when it's too hot or too
Yeah,
cold.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've already touched on the International Quilt Festival display,
Mhm.
but I have a couple other quilts that have a story that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
So I'll just name them and we'll go. So Imperial Blooms, tell me all about that one.
So Imperial Blooms. So, every quilt has a story and they're never short with me. So in 2010 was the first time I taught out of state, right? I got asked to fill in for somebody and I said, sure, I'll go and do it. So I went to Ohio and I was speaking at a doll makers convention. I was the
Oh,
after dinner speaker. And so while I was doing that, they said I could vend as well. So I had a little vending thing. And at the next table, Sue Spargo was vending because she was friends with the organizer and
oh,
she was working out of her basement then.
yeah.
So she was there with her daughter Amy, and we had lots of downtime. The doll makers were busy making dolls.
Yeah.
So we had lots of downtime and we talked. And then I went home and Googled her and I realized I should have asked her a lot more questions. But anyway,
Yeah.
I signed up for her block of the month program for the next year. So Imperial Blooms was her first block of the month where she added embroidery. And I was teaching embroidery and everything. And so anyway, so I signed up and every month I made my pieces as they came. I made the quilt. Right.
Mhm.
And so the last pieces for the backing and the binding came the third week of December. By the second week of January, my quilt was quilted, bound, and labeled.
Wow.
Right. So I'd made that quilt. Now I'd done wool applique before, I'd done embroidery before, but it really helped me focus. And then I added beads and did my own little touches, but it's very definitely recognizable as her quilt. Anyway, so I made it and then I got opportunities to enter it in shows.
Mhm.
So that was Imperial Blooms. So it really was a quilt that I used as a learning opportunity to really get to grips with everything. And I was already teaching wool applique, but I was so much better
Yeah.
after actually concentrating on it and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's nice that a block of the month turned into something you could enter in shows that won
Yeah.
prizes
Yeah, yeah.
and all that.
Sometimes with block of the month, you can't always enter shows.
Yeah.
And actually, the shows that I entered, the one of them in particular changed the rules
Oh.
so that you couldn't enter block of the months anymore.
Hmm.
So I just tell people when they say, "Oh, you can't," I'm like, "Read the rules.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
it's their competition, their rules.
Yeah.
You have to follow them. If they say no, it's no. If they say yes, anything goes."
Yeah. And a nice
Yeah.
little note that just popped into the back of my head to kind of round out that story is that I put all the books on my shelf behind me of all the people who have been on my podcast who have given me these beautiful books, and yours will be right beside Sue Spargle's.
Oh,
I'll
go
put
me.
Put them
Yeah,
right
well,
beside each other.
yeah, so funny story about me and Sue. You know, everybody knows who Sue is,
Yeah.
right? And she's 6 months older than me. She has grey hair and she has an accent.
Yeah.
She never gets mistaken for me. However, I have run out of fingers for the times that people think I'm Sue. When it gets to the point where they want me to sign their book or they want a photograph with me, I do check about who it is they think they're talking to.
Otherwise, you just let them go and
Yeah,
let them think, okay, oh, if you
yeah,
want me to sign a book, it better be my book.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, that is adorable. That's so funny. Okay, there's one more quilt I want to talk about before we move on to the big news and what's coming soon, and that is called The Long Winter. So tell us that story.
Okay, so it's not a new quilt. Yeah, we started this modern group in Naperville, and actually, the friend that she became a friend, the one who helped me with Flickr, she wanted to try a foot for her Benina, but she didn't want to spend the money on it because she was too sensible to buy it before she knew she wanted it. So I lent her a foot
Yeah.
for her machine, and then she brought it back, and yes, she did. Of course, she needed it, but she also gave me a charm pack,
Oh.
right? A Moda 5-inch square charm pack. So, you know, I'm a quilter. I cut it up into 1-inch strips. And so I took that and then I took some extra, it was actually Moda Winter White, and I started making log cabins because we were going to have a log cabin challenge. So I made these little finish at 4.5-inch log cabins, finish at 1/2-inch strips, all pieced. And then, but the challenge, it had to be a 36-inch square quilt. So I had all my blocks and then I put extra white squares in with it. But then, and I didn't want to piece the ones that were all white. So then I arranged it and then I decided I was going to quilt it. So I decided that I was going to quilt it by going around and around in the blocks, a square spiral.
Yeah.
Okay, so I did that. And then it shrank because quilting smushes things up. So I had to put on extra strips around the edge to make it 36 inches square, right? And then it was done. So and then I liked it. And so anyway, so I took it to Quilt Guild, and the actual log cabin blocks, the ladies on the front row, okay, the ladies on the front row are always the ladies who have belonged to the Quilt Guild for a long time, all right, and they have their seats. So the ladies on the front row thought it looked as though it was barns in the snow, right?
Oh, yeah.
So the Long Winter is my favorite Little House on the Prairie book. So it's called The Long Winter. So anyway, so it went into our display that we did, and then I thought, oh, I like this quilt, and so I entered it at Road to California, and back then they had a modern category, and so it won the negative space category in the modern category, and I sent it to AQS in Grand Rapids, and it got first place modern quilts there. It went to QuiltCon in Pasadena. So it got juried in, but it didn't win anything. And what was interesting was that quilt, it was a learning experience because I was doing these square spirals and I hadn't really done that before, and I hadn't really done like square corners. And so I was using the foot to measure where to stop and everything. But what I noticed was sometimes I'd sew and I'd hold it, but I hadn't quite taken my foot off the pedal, and it took an extra stitch in those corners, and those corners were much better than the ones where I actually stopped on time, pivoted and set off again. And I discovered I need an extra stitch at the corner. Whenever you turn a sharp corner, you want an extra stitch to really hold it secure. And the judges at QuiltCon commented on that some corners were better than others.
Oh,
I have to say they were right. Anyway, I use it as a learning tool now because it shows people taking that extra stitch is what you need. But the quilt, because white quilts show their age quickly, you know, so it shows its age if you see it in real life. But it has a story, and you know, and who but a quilter cuts a 5-inch square into 1-inch strips. I
I
mean,
know,
you
yeah.
know.
Well, and it's such a nice story because it ended up in all kinds of ribbons and prizes, and
Yeah, yeah.
it was fun. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the big news coming soon in your world because you've got two things. You've got the AQS Seam Cruise. So what is that all
Yes.
about?
Okay, well, last year I taught on one of these on an AQS sponsored cruise. We went to the Caribbean.
Mm.
So we were 12 nights in February.
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
You know what it's like when it's cold, right? So
Yeah.
that was great. My daughter came with me and she said, Mom, that was fun. But it wasn't a vacation.
No, it was not a vacation.
Right. I said, but she'll come again, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, AQS have now got into the cruise business,
Mm.
and so they're running a series of cruises next year, and I was invited to teach on the one going to Alaska.
Oh,
So
nice.
it's a week in May, and we're going to Alaska. We go out of Seattle, so it's very accessible. May is, it's early in the cruising season for Alaska, but I don't think we go to Alaska to feel warm. So it's a good time to see everything. Um, there's 4 teachers. We're all teaching 2 projects. So I'm teaching 2 handwork projects. I'm teaching one that is going to be a wool applique whale. And it's actually a Sue Spargo pattern because
Mhm.
she did this whale. And I'm like, why reinvent the wheel, right? It's a really fun pattern. So I
Yeah.
got permission and we're going to kit it up and use her wool and everything. So that'll be a fun class. And then I did one that's like an embroidery and it's a straightforward. I don't like to say easy, but it's a
Mm.
very straightforward symbols of Alaska. It's got the ptarmigan and the Sitka spruce and the forget-me-nots. So it'll be a nice like memento of going to Alaska.
Yeah.
That's a 1-day class. So they'll both have kits. I think cruising on a quilt cruise is such fun. I mean, you go on trips.
Yeah.
You can go if you go with your friends, that's great. But if your friends want to do something different, but you're with the quilters, you're going to find a new friend.
Yeah.
When it's that common interest. So, and if you go on your own, you might want your own room, or you might be open to sharing with a new friend.
Yeah.
But you know that when you go on the day trips, or when you're sitting in class, or when you're going to dinner, there's always somebody there to keep you company if you want it.
Yeah.
I think it's a really nice way to travel and really inclusive. Everybody can come along. So I'm
Yeah,
looking forward to it.
absolutely. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Grab a few friends and go on a quilting cruise, or if you're a lone traveler, it's the best kind of trip to go on because you're surrounded with
Yeah,
quilters, right?
yeah, yeah.
Great
And
idea.
everything's sort of as much as you can be independent, but everything's there if you want it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the quilting cruise is in May 2027. You can go to catherineredford.com to sign up for that.
There's a little button. Press the button.
Okay.
It'll take you right there.
Click on there, gather some friends and go on a girls trip, have some fun.
Absolutely. I did once teach on a class where like the Indiana girls came and they're still friends, right? There were 6 of them.
Yeah.
And they had a whale of a time. We all did karaoke together, even though I was from Illinois.
Yeah. Fun. Okay, so one more thing we want to mention coming soon is walking foot quilting classes from
Yes.
Creative Spark. So how did that
Yes.
come about?
Okay, well, so the book, I have the book.
Yeah.
We all know about the book by now.
Yeah.
So the class actually, what it does is it brings the book to life.
Oh, okay.
Now, due to contractual obligations,
Mhm.
it is the walking foot part of the book. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but we're calling it Walking Foot Quilting from Simple to Spectacular,
Mm.
and there'll be over 3 hours of taped class. So that's a lot of information.
Yeah.
We're going to package it so you'll get an e-copy of the book, and all life is good. You can follow along in the book. You can watch the class. More than one camera. It's all there. And then, but then because there is more, we separated it out. We have another one that will be called Finishing Strong, Quilt as You Go and Binding Basics.
Oh.
And so you don't have to do walking foot necessarily to want to do a quilt as you go quilt or put a binding on a quilt. So just a 1-hour class of the basics of that. of course, we'll have it priced so you can take one part, two parts,
Yeah.
all the things. I'll have a coupon on my website, because I live in the land of the free, right?
Yeah.
South of the border, with the land of the free. So I like to offer a coupon, and of course that will be on my website. So go through my website and you'll get that coupon and get a 20% discount.
Oh, that's a
I
great deal.
because I'm a middle child,
Yeah.
Middle children, they like everyone to be happy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so all kinds of fun stuff coming soon on Creative Spark. So now
Yes.
it's time for the lightning round robin. It's a series of rapid fire questions and it's super fun. Are you ready?
As ever I will be.
Okay, so what is your favorite tool or notion?
Two for two. Right. Okay, so my quick clip. Okay, quick clip, closing safety pins.
Okay.
Because I am a pin baster.
Okay.
Right. And then my other favorite tool is the Clover ballpoint awl. So it's like a awl, like stiletto, but it has a little end to it.
Yeah.
And it's got a flat handle so it doesn't roll. And I use it for so many things at the sewing machine. The best use is if you insist on stitching in the ditch, I use it to clean the seam. You'll have to look at my book to see what I'm talking about.
Yeah, okay, that sounds cool. What triggers inspiration for you?
Life.
Everything.
I know. The sunset, I don't know. I mean, it's like life, anything I see or hear or read, or if I get an idea, I think, oh, I wonder what I could do with that. Yeah.
How many UFOs do you have going on at once in your studio?
I knew this one was coming and I refused to count up.
And that's okay.
I don't have a clue, okay? I have things that I started that I'll never finish. So, but the learning was in whatever, as far as I got. And sometimes you just put them to one side. Every so often I'll clear up and throw them out, give them away. I am working on a project right now that is not finished. And that is a undercovers secret coming out sometime soon. When you work on something from scratch, not from a pattern, it's like, we'll see how it goes. But I think it's doing all right. I think it's doing all right. So that one is definitely unfinished. It will be finished.
Okay, speaking of finishing, do you have any kind of personal reward system for getting things done?
No. I mean, just the satisfaction of finishing it,
That's a good reward.
Yeah. I mean, I don't wait until I've finished until I reward myself. I'm old enough that if I want it, I can have it. Right?
Yeah.
So, I'm a dreadful person to buy presents for, because, if I want it to the point where I won't go to sleep, well, I can have it, can't I?
Okay, what's a skill you'd still love to learn?
I tried to learn to crochet. I did think about this one. So my other daughter, not the one who took the pictures, my other daughter, she learned to crochet. And I think she learned to crochet because her sister and her mother could not crochet. So she learned so that we couldn't interfere. All right. And so she decided I should learn to crochet. She had a little bit of time off after she had her first baby, and she decided I should learn to crochet. And she found me some good YouTubes that she thought were good, and I sort of learned. But the trouble with the crochet was, you just use a hook.
Yeah.
And I kept losing the hook. Knitting is on the needles. It's much harder. But I would be crocheting at the airport, and you know how you wait forever and then you have to rush?
Yeah.
I lost a really good crochet hook at Jackson Hole Airport. Right. So in the end, I gave up on crochet, and I honestly can't remember. I cannot remember how to do it. So, you never know, Joanne, if you're listening, when your children grow up and you have time, she'll be giggling now, right? Then perhaps you can show me again.
I learned crochet from a friend who's left-handed. So it's like looking at a mirror. It's perfect.
Right, yeah.
Anyway, okay. So have you had any weird, crazy, or funny fan moments?
Okay, well, apart from when they mistake me for Sue Spargo, right? So I was flying, I'd been to England to see my dad, and I was flying home, and somebody on the plane recognized me
Yeah.
because she'd been in an online class of mine.
Yeah.
That was interesting. And and then like we saw you at QuiltCon. So you're at QuiltCon and you're seeing all these people. And this one lady came up to me and she said, "You've been in my living room."
Oh, no.
And I was like, hmm, I because So, I mean, I've been in lots of people's living rooms because, I get invited, sometimes they have a guild dinner or, different things. And I'm just trying to be really polite and say, oh, and where do you live? Trying to remember the story.
Mhm.
Anyway, it was only when she walked away that I realized what she meant was she'd seen me on some television program. So I think that was a funny
Yeah.
that was funny when I realized that that's actually what she meant because I'd been really trying hard to like work it out so we could have a story because somebody else she says you don't recognize me, do you? But I drove you around, whatever,
Yeah.
right? And once she told me the story, I usually recognize them, and then she told me, well, because my hair was a different color then. No,
Mm.
that was nothing to, you know. But no, it's always fun.
Yeah.
It's always fun. It always makes you feel a little bit, I don't know, special.
Yeah.
I mean,
People are
it is
listening.
nice. It is nice when you know that people do actually recognize you for what you do.
Yeah.
That you've made a difference and everything. Yeah,
Well, speaking of that, what's your proudest accomplishment?
that's what. Oh, I guess I should say my children.
It's
Yeah,
a common, it is a common answer on
I
this
mean,
podcast.
um, my husband and I, we've been married 46 years this year.
Wow.
I was a child bride, just in case everybody's trying to work it out. I was child bride. Anyway, so my eldest son will be 43
Oh.
in June, so coming up very shortly. So, and we had four children in less than 5 years. So
Oh.
they really kept us busy, and there were moments when we didn't know whether we'd still have four children at the end of it. I mean, there were ups and downs. I always say
Mhm.
if you're going to be proud, you have to take the blame as well.
Yeah.
All right. But I guess the children all looked at us and they thought, well, if they can stay married and they can have children, I guess we can too,
Yeah.
and yeah, so them and then their spouses and the nine grandchildren, it's like, wow, how did that happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Definitely
mean, we
something
we
to be.
we cannot we cannot take the credit for them. It's just one of those things that I don't know. I don't use the term blessing very much. It's not
Yeah.
sort of it's not part of my vocabulary, but if anything, they're great. They're
Yeah.
they're amazing. Spending time with them now they're grown up is great, and I even cope with all the noise and chaos of the children.
Oh,
They'll all be here for Thanksgiving this year.
oh, good.
They'll stay in a hotel because they like to spend time together without their
Yeah.
parents interfering, and I think that's really good,
Yeah.
right? Because one day they might have to look after us. So if they all get on, they'll do that, and then they'll come to us like after breakfast,
Yeah.
and, and they'll leave at bedtime. And so we just get the best of them, and we'll have a really good time.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well, definitely something to be proud of, right?
well, they make me
Okay.
feel good.
Yeah. Well, thank you for braving the lightning round, Robin. That was super fun. So we've mentioned your website a couple of times at catherineredford.com, where we can find
Hmm.
all the things we talked about today. But
Yep.
where's the best place for us to connect with you on social media?
Okay, so I have an Instagram is Catherine Redford, and my Facebook is Catherine Redford Quilter.
Quilter. Okay. So we want to make that distinction. So they're finding the quilting area of where you go. That is
That's
awesome.
right.
Easy to find, lots of good information there. So now, as we wrap up, Catherine, what do you want people to take away most from our conversation today?
Okay, quilting is a choice. Okay, we choose to quilt. It's actually much more sensible and economical to go to your favorite big box store and buy a quilt. So when we make quilts, we are doing so much more than just making a blanket to keep somebody warm.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We're doing it because we want to be creative. We want to express the creative part of ourselves. We enjoy having something tactile in our hands. We want to express a special level of love for the person we're making the quilt for. Yeah. So I just think we should enjoy it. We should do what we love, and really that's what it's about.
Yeah, so true. It's about the journey and the joy, not always the finished product, right? Okay, I love that. Okay, so Catherine, it's been such a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for sharing your story with us today.
Oh, the pleasure's all mine. Thanks, Brandy.
So that was my show with Catherine Redford. She has this wonderful way of making machine quilting feel less scary and more possible. Like you don't have to be perfect to create something beautiful. After decades of making, teaching, experimenting, and learning, and writing gorgeous books, she still approaches quilting with curiosity and generosity. Quilting is supposed to bring joy. Not every quilter has to love every single step. And that's okay. There's room for all kinds of makers in this community. And to everyone listening right now, maybe hearing about Catherine in this episode is your sign to try the quilting on your own quilt for the first time. Play with a new texture. Try walking foot quilting or free motion quilting or hand quilting. Simply give yourself permission to enjoy the parts of quilting you love most. Catherine's inspiring that way, and you really need to go check her out online. And today, I loved sharing the story of Catherine Redford with you. Quilter on Fire is now on YouTube, and it's packed with brand new weekly content. What's waiting for you? Fun and easy tutorials to follow, exciting unboxings, exclusive interviews with top quilters and artists at the biggest quilt shows like Houston and QuiltCon. If you love Quilter on Fire on the podcast, you're going to be blown away by our YouTube channel. Don't miss out. Subscribe to Quilter on Fire on YouTube today. Let's ignite your passion for quilting. Thank you for listening to the Quilter on Fire podcast. Remember to rate, review, and follow us on Apple Podcasts. Your support helps me reach more quilters just like you, striving for that perfect quilty lifestyle. Click on those 5 stars and share what you loved most about today's episode. Don't forget to hit the follow button if you haven't already. With new episodes dropping weekly, you won't want to miss out on the inspiring stories and tips we have in store. Until next time, dream big and have fun in the studio with the Quilter on Fire.